This is the Cardboard Stacker here with another episode of Games on Another Shelf. This time, I'll take a look at Clue, the Great Museum Caper. The game comes with an English rulebook, y Español, a shield and map pad for the thief, a total of 11 locks with 6 open and 5 locked, 6 player pawns in their familiar Clue colors, a thief pawn, and 6 security cameras, a 3D map of the museum, and painting stand-ups, a white die that has an eye, camera, and M for motion detection, and a black standard 6-sided die. To set up the game, each player of the character team selects one colored pawn while the thief chooses the gray pawn and puts it aside right now. For every outside doorway and window, the character chooses where each closed and open lock will go. Then the paintings are placed, at least one per colored room. Security cams are then strategically placed however the character team chooses. You may walk through or land on security cams since they are technically on the ceiling. And lastly, the character team places their character pawns on any colored space. And now, wait, hold on a second. And now, the character team is ready to play. As for the thief, he plays behind the cardboard shield and writes down the main features of the board on his pad, including where all the pictures are, which entrance he's using to get in, and where the security cams are located. During a game, the thief must move 1 to 3 spaces and keeps track his movement on the sheet. On the bottom of the pad, the M symbol allows the thief to ignore the motion detection effect up to 2 times. The number of cameras next to it are for keeping track of which cameras have been cut off by the thief. Now, whenever a thief is under a security camera, he may cut the wires and remove the camera from the rest of the game. Unfortunately for the players, if this happens, they won't know it until they activate a disabled camera. If you're wondering about the little P sign on the bottom of the map, it's for the power source. If a thief lands here on this space, he can temporarily shut down all the cameras and motion detection, and like before, players won't know it until they activate any cameras. Now, as long as the thief is in the shadows, the thief can bypass anyone on the character team, but may not escape until he's spotted. And at this point, the thief will no longer need to keep track of his movement. It's the thief's goal to steal as many paintings as possible and then escape through an opening. As for the character team, they need to either land on his space or spot the thief and then capture him. Turn order begins with the thief, then the first character, then the thief, then with the second character, and so on. The game begins with the thief making an entrance and then moving 2 spaces. The thief wants to steal a painting, so he must wait for 1 turn and on the following turn removes the painting after he moves. On their turn, players may perform a die action and a move action in any order. Miss Scarlet moves and then attempts to use the eye action from the die. She sees in all directions but not diagonally. The thief is not spotted, and the thief takes another turn. Miss White takes a turn and has rolled an M, but the thief keeps his place secret by crossing off one of his M's. Fast forward a few turns, after Mrs. White moves, she uses the camera effect to see if any of the cameras can see the thief. None of the cameras can see the thief, but the thief removes camera 3 and indicates camera 3 was deactivated some time ago. When it's Miss Scarlet's turn again, she used the eye action and finds Lady Lavender. Lady Lavender snatches another painting. Mrs. White moved, but she's too far away. The thief takes the opportunity here to escape, but this window is locked. So Mrs. Peacock goes for the capture, and the characters win. Lady Lavender moves towards the door. Mrs. Peacock falls 1 space short. So Lady Lavender successfully gets out, runs for the fountain, and dances in celebration, which also made her very wet. So Lady Lavender silently left the museum that night and was never heard from again. Because roll and move can kinda suck. The box is your standard late 80s, early 90s very big box edition of games. It holds the 3D board, but without any means of organization, expect a messy box. The components are your run-of-the-mill cheap plastic parts. It was easy to upgrade the boring pawns from any updated version of Clue. The 3D board is cool looking, but I feel that it's a bit unnecessary. Some of the pros of gameplay is that it's short and simple, takes little setup time, and it's more fun than regular old Clue. On the cons, the game can be a little dependent on the dice sometimes. It would have been cool if there were other maps, and lastly, the game is not balanced playing any less than 4 players. The game does really feel like you're trying to track a thief and capture him or her, or you're the most daring thief that steals paintings and tries to make a run for it. I can only say that the only real Clue aspect, other than the presence of the cast of Clue, is that there's a little bit of that deduction element trying to find the thief. So I guess it's not much of a regular Clue game. The game is played best with all 4 players, with 1 player as a thief and the other 3 as the characters. It certainly feels a bit more balanced in a 4-player game. Anything lower makes it hard for the people looking out for the thief. Compared to other games that is played with a similar format, like Nuns on the Run and Scotland Yard, I kinda like it better than Scotland Yard, but Nuns on the Run is still a favorite to play in my game group. Scotland Yard is a game taking place in London where one person, Mr. X, must be elusive for a number of turns to win while the detectives, the other players on a team, need to catch him under the same time period. With Scotland Yard, which came out in the 80s, I think you have to strategize a bit more using transportation tickets from the beginning of the game, or else you'll find it a bit harder to win. But on the other hand, the cooperativeness of the team players is much apparent here in this game. The Great Museum Caper, on the other hand, while there is a bit of a luck element in it, does it better since the area of play is smaller, the map is simpler to look at, and none of the ticket business. I don't know if the Great Museum Caper is based on Scotland Yard, but I still like it better. Compared to Nuns on the Run, a game where the other players have secret movement and are competing to get their secret wish while one player plays the role of 2 guards, well actually nuns, I find it does it better because in the game, where novices are outrunning the nuns, the sense of hiding in small places and feeling where you hope the little sound you've made didn't grab the nuns' attention works. I also want to add that the Great Museum Caper is the highest rated Clue game on Board Game Geek with a score of 6.64. Original Clue, or Cluedo, rates at 5.65 with almost 9,000 votes. It's also interesting the Great Museum Caper is the second highest voted Clue game with over 970 votes. I personally think the Great Museum Caper is one of the best Clue games there is, but it's not really a Clue game. The top rated actual Clue game that falls short is Clue Master Detective with a BGG rating of 6.56. My favorite Clue game is Clue FX. In my opinion, is an underrated game. Perhaps I'll review both of those one day. There are only a small handful of hidden movement games out there, and I think Clue, the Great Museum Caper, is a good one. Before going to my final thoughts of the game, let's see how I did on price check. I purchased this game at a local swap meet for $5. Now, even in my earliest days of gaming, I wanted to find this game somewhere, either in a thrift store or whatnot. It took me about 3 years to actually find one at a relatively good condition. After some research, I can say this game is fairly common and people still play it. I price it up to $15 in this condition, so I can make $10 with this game. So my final thoughts are, if you find it and like small simple games, then it's worth your time. With its quick and simple playstyle, Clue the Great Museum Caper is a good piece to have in your showroom. Thanks for watching. Comment below and tell me about what other hidden movement games you like. Subscribe to my channel and visit our Facebook page. This has been the Cardboard Stacker, and hoping to help you look for some great games to add to your collection. The form that he is in may give him an extra bonus on certain cards. Setback is one of the more interesting heroes. He takes chances by manipulating his luck. As he plays cards, the game pauses for a bit. The player who played it will now switch the animal from his barn with a new one from the bag of unused animals. Before the game resumes, he must